One of the appointment viewing dates across the state of Massachusetts in the high school football calendar every year. It's once again for all the marbles in the Old Colony League, the Bridgewater-Raynham Trojans and the Barnstable Red Raiders. We'll have you here in our game of the week here at Bridgewater-Raynham Friday night, but for now, it's our Week 9 Thursday preview. As always, I'm Scott Barboza, joined by my co-editor, my compadre, Brendan Hall. Of course, a reminder that this segment is brought to you, as always, by our friends at the Massachusetts Army National Guard. To find out how you can go to college tuition free, go to nationalguard.com. Now that we have all the introductions aside, and a very ghoulish Halloween we're recording here at BR, Brennan, obviously, we've talked about this matchup a lot in the last couple of years. Been some really great games being played, some great football. And just a great rivalry that's really developed here in the last several years.
You know, I thought we were going to avoid a Halloween cliche here. I guess
it's
irresistible. It's
Almost.
irresistible. You look at the way these two teams are coming into this game, and you think BR would be having a little bit momentum built after the way they performed the last couple of weeks. Meanwhile, you got Barnstable coming off that bye week last week. Had a real scare against Bill Ricka. They almost lost the game. They were down a point with 8 minutes to go, and they pulled it out against a Bill Ricka team that, you know, is perceived to be maybe the 5th or 6th best team in the MVC alone. So I'm expecting, as usual, because last year, for instance, with DJ Crook injured, they went with a wildcat look with Hayden Murphy taking some snaps there, and they were able to kind of push the ball. It was obviously an epic win there, winning in overtime in epic fashion there. Hayden Murphy running it in. 2 years ago, you saw some interesting things on both sides of the ball. So you always see a few new ripples in this game, it feels like.
Let's hit the nail right on the head here and start with this Barnstable defense. You were down there on the Cape last week. I think Brennan has a book in the works here, Death by 1,000 Shallow Crosses. I really think that has some kind of Faulkner-esque, almost poetic license to it. But this is a Barnstable defensive group that struggled a little bit last week in a big way.
Yeah, and like I said earlier in the week, credit Bill Ricka, credit Peter Flynn, one of the better coaches when it comes to passing offense in the area, for calling a great game plan. Barnstable didn't really press a lot. They were really giving up the shallow there, and Bill Ricka took full advantage. It was almost like they were waiting for Jordan Ballerina to screw up there, but he didn't. They ran a lot of hitches to the sticks. They were running a lot of shallow routes, crosses, a few meshes or whatnot have you, and really took advantage of everything they were given. The one area I thought Barnstable did okay was the run defense. You get guys in the front seven like, Jason Fry, DJ Gonsalves, Ryan Lichman, Brian Hardy. They all played, pretty well against the run. So I think that is an advantage for them. It's an athletic front seven. Not the biggest guys, but they're long. They have that reach. They can kind of snap and shoot the gap pretty quickly. So, but yes, this is a pass team that will be tested against Bridgewater. I know it sounds weird saying that because we think of BR, we think of ground and pound, we think of Doug Bissett, Mark Colombo. But this is a team that has a bit of an underrated pass game, in my opinion. And boy, they're really going to have to shore things up this week if they're going to have to win this one, in my opinion.
And of course, one of the key matchups will be that front seven of the Barnstable Red Raiders against, as always, as you mentioned, this Bridgewater-Raynham offensive line always has a couple horses up there. One of the big ones to watch for this Friday night will be tackle Joe Mcginness. We caught up with him right here. Joined now by Joe Mcginness, one of those hulking Bridgewater-Raynham tackles. We've talked about it all the time, go back to Mark Colombo and all the guys that have come through this program. It's kind of a badge of honor, I think, to play offensive line for this team. What is it so much about this team and the coaching staff here that has been able to have guys just year after year come in and play those positions at a very high level?
Well, obviously we're a very heavy set run team, so that's always most important. Our line coach, Coach Fernandez, really stresses it. We really stress technique. Aside from this year, we don't always have the biggest guys, but our technique's always good. We're always tough out there, so we really make sure we get down to business when it comes to running the ball.
You guys typically, again, one of the hallmarks of this team, the running attack, you usually have a couple guys that'll come up and kind of distribute the ball there. But Ryan Gallagher has really been one of, I think, the real breakout players of the really across the state this year. Just talk about, what he's been able to do in a relatively short time with this team and where you see him progressing in the years coming.
Yeah, I was surprised at the beginning of the season how, good he was, coming in as a sophomore. I've, worked out with him at different camps, in the past, but he just hits the hole hard. He makes things happen, even if the blocking's not there. So like next year, even like our line's gonna be great next year too. So he's gonna have another breakout season. Then he has a senior season, so future's pretty bright for him. So.
When we look at this Barnstable defense, obviously you guys are all familiar with each other. That's kind of one of the great cat and mouse games, I think, with this matchup every year. Everybody knows what each other's strengths is, but when you look at this Barnstable defense, real hard-hitting defense. But what do you see when you look at them on the film this week?
We really have to key on their linebackers. We got the one-on-one blocks on the line, we'll be good, and then we just have to, we got our scoop blocks, get down on the linebackers, cut them off, can't let them flow to the play. They fill real hard. So,
in those kinds of matchups, how important is it for linemen to be able to communicate in those situations and make sure you get all your your assignments down pat up front?
Yeah, that's another reason why like our line's been good in past years is communication, because like we all have to know what each other's doing. Like any 5 of our starting linemen can tell like each other what everybody else is doing on any given play. So we all know what's going on. We're all on the same page. That really helps us out.
Thanks very much, Joe. Moving right along here, Brendan, we just mentioned it a little while ago. Not perhaps your grandfather or your father's Bridgewater-Raynham offense here, looking to air the ball out a little bit more coming in this year, and Jordan Cohen's done a pretty darn good job.
Yeah, and keep an eye on Brendan Gallagher, too, another guy that they really like over here. Just a lot of interchangeable parts, but you mentioned about Cohen and the way that the passing game goes. Really, it's about getting these guys' in space. Now, you've obviously seen him a little bit more than I have. I'm kind of basing on what I've seen earlier in the season, but the way that they get those guys running, driving, on the perimeter and whatnot, I think it works to their advantage. So.
They got some playmakers in this offense, definitely to be had. Ryan Scripter, as Coach Buron will see in a little bit. There's a bunch of Ryans here that'll be getting the ball. Probably somebody with the first name of Ryan will be getting the ball on Friday night. But we caught up with somebody who does not have the first name of Ryan. This is one of the Kevins. We got caught up with senior captain Kevin Wadsworth. Here's a look at that. Joined now by Kevin Wadsworth, somebody who's going to play an integral part of this matchup this weekend on both sides of the ball. You always think Bridgewater-Raynham football. You always think two-way players. Yourself, not an exception. But let's start with this Barnstable offense. Obviously, they come at a lot of speed on that side of the ball, but also, they present some matchup problems with what they're able to do while spreading everybody out, and that they have a lot of people that can play their specific roles very well. When you look at that receiving core as a whole on film coming in this week, just kind of what sticks out to you?
They definitely have a lot of speed. They obviously know what they're doing. They're very well coached. We've been working hard to defend the pass, definitely, for sure. So that's something we've been focusing on. We're really working hard, so yeah.
You guys, we always think meat and potatoes, ground and pound type of team here with BR, but you guys have aired it out a little bit. Had some real success a couple of weeks ago. Jordan Cohen and Ryan Murphy had, I think 2-3 touchdowns off the top of my head there. You guys have been able to really kind of spread the ball out this year. Is that something that you were trying to establish early in the season coming in?
Well, Mr. Buron, he does love to run the ball, but we do have a lot more weapons this year, so we are trying to use them to our advantage, get them to the people, get them to the playmakers, so we've been working on it.
Have you kind of relished that, having yourself out there on the perimeter, getting to see a couple more balls come your way instead of just being a downfield blocker more often?
Yeah, whatever helps the team win. If it is blocking the whole game, it'll be blocking the whole game. If it's passing the whole game, I'll do it. I'm game for anything.
This rivalry against Barnstable, particularly in the last several years here, has really kind of made itself into one of the I think it's a real appointment viewing across the state. People look at this game year in, year out. How has that rivalry developed in your time here, and outside of obviously the the OCL situation that has come down to basically a 2-game playoff system here? What else goes into this game besides what else is on the line?
This is what we prepare for all year. This is the game that really counts. Doesn't matter any of the other games we play. It doesn't really matter. It all comes down to these 2 games. As long as we win these 2 games, we're happy.
Thanks very much, Kevin. Moving right along here, we're going to take a look at this Bridgewater-Raynham defense, which should be pretty well prepared, I think, for this game on Friday, given the guy that they got running the scout team here.
Yeah, they got to look behind us. You got a guy, Mark Hartzell, for the Brockton fans. You're obviously very familiar. Quarterback at Boston College, came up through the Brockton system. Had a cup of coffee with I think the Bears and the Redskins, and now he's here as a quarterbacks coach. Just settled down in Bridgewater, and boy, he can still whip the ball, huh? But the last few years has been an incremental thing for them to have during Barnstable, because if you look at the lineage of quarterbacks that Barnstable had the last couple of years, going from DJ Crook to Nick Peabody, they've always had a guy that can really sling the ball around. So it's good practice. But I think it speaks to a larger point is that. A large part of what Barnstable does, for as much as they're able to kind of push the perimeter, with some running ability, with some zone read, with some slot sweeps, it's predicated on stretching the field deep before they go underneath. And really, as bad as the defense was against Bill Rooker, the offense was pretty crisp. You get Tadaro France ripping off a 70-yard touchdown there. Dylan Morris, who I think is one of the better route runners south of Boston, and also Manny Perry, another guy to watch out for in that receiving corps. So. It's going to be quite a test for the BR defense in the secondary. I'm curious to see how they hold up.
Yeah, we saw a couple of weeks ago against LaSalle Academy. They had one of their rougher nights on the season over here. Kevin Wadsworth, that we just talked to, will definitely be a big part of slowing down that core of receivers, but also be interested to see up front how, again, this front seven matchup is going to go down. This BR defense up front, too, a little bit underrated, I think. Kevin Johnston, we're going to talk to in just a second here, can really get off the pasture. Dan Noviello on the other side. Those are two pretty good bookends on the defensive end there. I think it'll be interesting to see how exactly they attach this Barnstable offense, though, because, again, there's a lot of ways. If you're going to sag too many guys back into coverage, we've seen that in the past. Hayden Murphy and also Nick Peabody can make some plays with his feet, as we saw all the way back in week 1 against Dennis Yarmouth, too. But we caught up with Kevin Johnston just a moment ago to take a look at perhaps how that battle in the trenches is going to go this Friday. Joined now by Kevin Johnston, one of the big defensive bookends on this Bridgewater-Raynham Trojans defense. Kevin, you and Dan Noviello have been kind of a bear to contend with here in the pass rush. Barnstable, obviously, they like to spread you guys out. Does that at all kind of change your responsibility coming into a week like this? Trying to apply pressure on the quarterback, but also, having some gap responsibilities and things of that nature.
It's definitely different than what we're used to. We're playing a 30 defense this week, so I'm down at line to head up on the tackle. So I'm playing a little bit of D tackle, I don't have as much as outside contain, but pretty much more trying to stop the run in the middle and trying to get pass rush on the quarterback still.
What do you personally like more? Do you like playing inside more, having that, playing at like a 3 technique or something like that, or do you like kind of coming off the edge and being able to be kind of more of a pass rusher?
I love the pass rush on the outside, but being inside is definitely it's a little bit of fun. Not worried about as much outside, not as much responsibility. So I'm just trying to get to the quarterback and trying to stop the run. But being outside is definitely my favorite. I played it for every year. So, I like it. I like the more outside better. So, yep.
A couple of weeks ago, you guys had LaSalle Academy, a team that you've seen out of state a couple times now. I think they kind of have some similarities with this Barnstable offense, getting to see them earlier in the year. You guys had a tough night for all intents and purposes there. Is there anything that you can learn from, a not-so-great experience like that and kind of translate that into some success here on Friday night?
We definitely learned from it. LaSalle was more of an open team. They ran a lot of open back set. So that's definitely prepared us for Barnstable because they run pretty much all open. We definitely learned from that. It wasn't a good game for us, and definitely going to step it up this week and be better than that.
We asked this before. This has turned into a really great rivalry game here in the last couple of years, and typically it's because of what's on the line in the Old Colony League. You got a 2-game playoff basically in the season. But what else adds to this game and between these two programs that have, really just kind of looked at each other in this state every year here for the last several?
It's definitely probably the biggest game of the year we're going to have. We play Dartmouth. We focus more on this game than we do on Dartmouth, but they both count, and this game's just a rival, and it's like a tradition. When you win, you have you feel better. You feel like you have an upper hand on them. So, last year we had a tough loss against them down to the wire. This year, we're going to try to beat them at home, and it's just always been a big rival. It's one of our favorite games to play, one of my favorite games to play. So, yeah.
Thanks very much, Kevin. We'll wrap it up here with Coach Buron in just a moment, but before we get there, again, we'll just gloss on this Barnstable offense. Really, what else can we say at this point? One of the more prolific units in the state.
Well, now there's an interesting ripple that's been added the last week or so. Is last week Andrew Ellis, the linebacker, the heart and soul there of the Barnstable defense, switches number from 7 to 77 because they have some depth concerns at offensive line.
Phil Esposito, Ray Bork, perhaps?
Yeah, exactly. Billy Grimmer with his injury, Andrew is now the backup guard. So there is that possibility. I asked Chris Whitten about it, and he said the rule was, before you could check in if you want to be a blocking back, now you have to actually wear a skill number.
Yeah.
So you could see, and I don't know if it's going to happen, but you could see Andrew Welling wearing a couple numbers, maybe playing a fullback in that offense. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like I said, you always see an interesting ripple added to each team's game for Barnstable BR week. So, but that aside, this passing offense is among the state's best, and I have no problem saying among all the quarterbacks I've seen this year, Nick Peabody might be the best in the MIAA. He really is. You look at the whole makeup, his throwing ability, the way he can just kind of sling it out there, but also his accuracy and his ability to make a play when he's flushed out of the pocket and make something out of it with his feet. I think it's what makes him such a dangerous player to deal with, and that's why I think he's one of the better players in EMIA. That aside, he's got 3 terrific receivers to work with, too. They give him a lot of advantages. We mentioned about Dylan Morris. We mentioned about Tadaro France. I think Manny Perry will be the key. I think a lot of teams are starting to key up on these guys and throwing different coverages at France and Morris. And I think he's going to have a big game. The thing, too, is I think Hayden Murphy at running back is going to have a big game. You see spurts of it from him. He's got that straight line speed that once he gets in second gear, he can really kick it up to 5 pretty quickly. So he's going to have a big game. There's going to be a lot of guys that play unsung roles that are going to have to step up here.
Yeah, and we talked about a little bit about that Barnstable running game with Coach Buron coming up right here. To wrap it all up now, we're here with the head coach of the Trojans, Dan Buron. Now, Coach Buron, of course, this game is, we've talked about this, become appointment viewing basically across the state, I think, in recent memory here. What makes this matchup so, special and memorable, outside of obviously what it's worth for the Old Colony League Championship ostensibly these last couple of years, but what makes it so special?
Well, it's just a great rivalry. I think with all the way back to youth football, these kids are playing Barnstable kids. They know each other. Even way back when we had a lot of teams in our league, way back when, I've been around a long time, this game had a meaning. The winner usually had was a front runner for the league. So this game had significance. It's a great rivalry. In the last couple of years, I don't think it's disappointed anybody. The home team's done well, but it's always been a battle. And they're a good football team, a great program. They've changed coaches and haven't missed a beat. Chris Whitten's done a great job. Those kids, I've seen them play. They're believing in the system. They're doing well, and we know we have our hands full. But it's a different. Around here, the week of practice and preparation is just different. It's been like that for years. I mean, Barnstable week is different than any other week.
We know obviously team speed is always an element with them, but let's talk defenses first and talk about, this is a very physical defense. Sometimes gets overlooked over there with obviously the offensive numbers that they put up, but this is a very tough group up front.
Well, I think when you have a good team like that, and we've had a few good teams over the years, and the offense has put up a lot of points because your defense is giving you a lot of opportunities. You look at the film, there's a lot of 3 and outs, so the offense is getting the ball a lot, and that's a great offense. But you're right, team speed is, especially on defense, I agree with you. They're physical. They fly to the football like better than any team I've seen, and team speed is something we don't have and they have, so advantage them in that one, I think, right now. So, but defensively, I've said that. I think I said that to you earlier today. That's what's gone unnoticed about Barnstable, and I think that's the reason they're so successful. The defense is so good.
Let's switch around to the other side of the ball in your offensive line here. Obviously, you guys have kind of been BRU when it's been, come to offensive linemen here, going back to Mark Colombo and all those great guys that have come through this program. We've talked about all the time Coach Fernandez and the job that he does with that group. But what is it, about the kids that come into this program year in, year out that kind of just have an affinity to fill into those positions and play at a very high level?
Well, I think they figure I'm not smart enough to throw the ball, so they figure you got to learn how to run block. No, we do have a good offensive line. I'm waiting for them to play their best game. Hopefully it's this week. But year in and year out, and I think maybe it started with Mark Colombo. That was early in my career, and he's kind of set the benchmark. I'm trying to get him to fly in this week and suit up. He's retired now, but we could use him. But no, I'm only kidding about that. I'll get called. The MIA will call me or something. But we have to cut that. No, but about the offensive line, it's been a tradition here. We try to run the ball first and then throw second. And, I think running backs appreciate the linemen and give them a lot of credit. And the linemen take pride in the fact that we do have some pretty good running backs over the years. So it's just a tradition. Coach Fernandez and Coach Wilcox have done a great job keeping that tradition going, and that's where games are won. And I think that's going to be the matchup to look at. I mean, I know the fans don't look at that, but I think our line against their front 7 or 8 is going to be the key Friday night.
I know you're just trying to sandbag your passing attack here, but Jordan Cohen's done a pretty darn good job here this year. And you guys have aired it out a little bit and done it with some success. A big game against Durfee a couple weeks back. What have you seen out of him in that group? Talk about kids like Ryan Scripter. Just talked to Kevin Wadsworth a little while ago. You got some kids that can make plays.
Oh, we do, and the thing is, it's the media, guys like you, that say we run the ball all the time. I mean, I think it's a misconception. But Jordan, the thing with Jordan is, he got hurt early last year, so he hasn't had a lot of games under his belt. And each week he's getting better and better. And I think if you look at the last 3 weeks in particular, even though down at LaSalle we lost, he played well. Zavarian, he had a great game, and then last week against Dartmouth. So we do throw the ball a little bit more than I think people think we do. Obviously if we get a lead, we're going to try to milk the clock as much as possible. But I think where he's been successful is when we're throwing on first down and play action passes, and that's all predicated on the run game. So, but Jordan's getting better and better. And you're right, we got Kevin Wadsworth, Ryan Murphy out of the backfield. Ryan Script, Ryan Martin, a lot of Ryans, I guess that was a popular name about 16, 17 years ago, I guess. But Ryan Martin too. We got some nice receivers, who have kind of gone under the radar, and they're going to need to make big plays. The team that makes the most big plays is going to win this game Friday night, I think.
And knowing you as long as I have, I know you're not going to give me anything on this, but 3 keys to victory for Friday night that you're looking for.
I think score more points than Barnstable would be one. No, I really think I mentioned first and foremost, the offensive line for us. And I think Chris would probably say the same thing with his team. Not just running the ball, but protecting the passer. So the trenches is that's where the game is won and lost. Making big plays on offense, not long plays, but making key plays, and I guess execution. And then the third thing defensively is just not giving up the big play. And they're a big play offense. That's easier said than done because they're so good at what they do. They're patient, and then boom, they go over the top. So if we can avoid the 60, 70-yard plays, whether it's run or pass, the last couple of years it's been the run. They've popped the long run on us, what happens with that offense, you get caught sometimes man-to-man defense, and you're trying to stop them, and they pop through, and there's no safeties there. So we gotta bend but not break, and that's been our I think forte this year in a lot of other games. So hopefully that will be the case Friday night.
Now that we've dissected, cross-sected this matchup into oblivion, we're going to switch it over to our favorite part of our Thursday preview, which is a ghoulish edition of Pick
Will you cut it out with the cliches?
2 references. Come on now. You want to kill me for that. But let's get straight into it, Brennan. We'll start with a couple of big DCL games coming in here. Wayland conquered Carlisle. Yeah,
Wayland's got a pretty good defense, and I think they've shown that throughout the year. The win over LS is what a lot of people will point to.
Yep.
They had a lot of returning experience coming into the year, so they had some expectations, and they've, for the most part, lived up to it. I'm going to go with Wayland getting their first playoff berth since 2007, and they're going to do it winning by a score.
Many moons ago, I picked Concord Carlisle to win the DCL large, but, I'm going to stick with one of my picks, though. I think DCL small was always coming through Wayland, and I'm going to stick with that pick, so I'm going to go with Wayland in this matchup as well. Switching the page to the DCL large now, great rivalry matchup every year usually decides this division. Lincoln-Sudbury gets through last week's test, but they got Acton-Boxborough coming to town this week.
Yeah, and I think there's a bit of an unknown element here with AB taking that big loss to Waltham last week. A lot of people like, what the heck happened there, or is Waltham better than we expected? But nonetheless, it is ABLS, and if you follow Dual County League football, that is the game. Years ago, it seemed like for almost a decade that this game was deciding the Dual County League back when they were, one division, and not even when they were 2 divisions, it was deciding the league. And for whatever reason, LS just couldn't win that game for a while. But now they've won the last few meetings. But naturally, because it's ABLS and these games are always decided by one score. These are classic, 10-7, 14-6, defensive turnover in the fourth quarter, something of that nature. It's going to be one of those games. But I'm going to have LS winning that one.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same thing. I'm going to go with the Warriors. They're going to roll through the rest of their DCL large schedule, and they'll end up winning out for all the marbles there. Moving along, take a look at Central Mass Northbridge. Again, Coach LaChapelle, a big year for them, and they haven't really let down either. It wasn't just some kind of titular accomplishment there. They've really rolling through, and they got perhaps their biggest test of the year this week against Auburn.
Yeah, and Auburn, we've mentioned about that offensive line, but keep an eye on Desjardins, the running back there. He's had a pretty good season there. And for Northbridge, Matt Phelan, the quarterback, has been everything they've asked of him. I know they took a surprise loss a couple weeks ago, but this is going to be a very competitive game. I'm not really sure where I stand on this one, to be honest with you, but I'm going to go with the hot hand. I'm going to go with the team that's ranked higher in a poll, I guess. I'm going to go with Auburn winning this one.
Much to the chagrin of most of Central Mass, a little barb there, but I'm going to go with Auburn in this one. Again, can't go pick against that offensive line in Aaron Dyke. Again, picking up a lot of steam and perhaps some offers there, and I'm going to stick with the Rockets. Or as Chris Forsberg would have us refer to them as the Dandies. Yes, that's a little one for you there, Chris. But moving along here, this is another critical game in the South Coast Conference. Dighton Rehoboth, Wareham. Again, this is really much for all the marbles.
Yeah, and I really expect this to be a one-score affair, much like some of the other league games here. Darren Fernandez is going to be the key there. He's obviously a gifted runner. We've seen what he can do. He's a powerful kid. He's a low center of gravity, tough to get an angle on. I expect him to have a big night. I'm going to go with Wareham winning this one.
I'm going to go contrary to that. I'm going to go with DR, and I'm going to go with the passing attack, actually. You think Coach Driscoll's team's a little bit of ground and pound there coming out of the wing, but Nathan Kowalski, 8 touchdown passes on the year. I'm going to go with the Falcons down there. Switch it up to the Middlesex League. We got Stoneham. Finally got knocked off the bus, if you will, but coming in, Burlington, this is still a huge league game here.
Yeah, and Stoneham took one on the chin last week to Wakefield, and I see them taking another one here, honestly. Burlington's rushing attack, at this point, it's really cruising. We've mentioned a lot about Marcus Odaya, a lot about him. Obviously, one of the best running backs in the area, but also Anthony Cruz has really stepped it up, too. Yeah. And I just think that two-prong rushing attack, it's constant fresh legs, it's constant different contrast of styles there. I think it's going to be too much for Stoneham to handle. I got Burlington winning that one.
Yeah, it's been a great story up in Spartan Nation this year, but I think Cinderella's ball, the time's running out on it, and I got the Red Devils winning and going to that.
Hopefully our boss, Dave Leaford, who's a Stoneham resident, doesn't take this personally.
It's all good. We got you picked Northbridge, though, so then you made up for
we're
it.
1 and 1. We're 1 for 2, you know.
In the Leaford household.
Yeah.
We're working everybody in this week. I love it. Moving up to the Merrimack Valley. Again, last week was a very telling week. Some huge games there, but we've got another one this week with Lowell coming to visit Andover.
Yeah, that's going to be a high-scoring affair.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be quite what it was 2 years ago. You think of the 88-80 8 overtime game,
Classic.
Made national headlines.
Yep.
I don't know how many rebounds, shot blocks, or whatever assists were in that game, but it must have been a heck of a, anyways. This is going to be
the Celtics defense last night.
Yes. Unfortunately, this is going to be a very high-scoring affair. By all accounts. I mean, Lowell can score in bunches, and so can Andover. Andover, all those weapons. I think they do just a little bit more than Lowell. I think it's going to come down to whoever has the ball last, and I think by that time there will be 1,000 yards of offense and 90 points on the board.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with Andover.
I'm going to go with Andover as well. We've said it all season. I mean, that offense really. Hey, we know Lowell can put points on the boards too, but behind Cam Ladd have been a really great weapon for them this year, taking over for Noel. But hey, this is the Golden Warriors here. I see them taking it, and again, winning out on the MVC Large. Let's take a look at some ISL action real quick here. We got Govs going to Milton Academy. Again, does anybody narc Govs from that battle of the unbeatens? And, St. Seb's is still undefeated there, but again, does anybody answer the call and take down Govs?
The short answer?
No.
Tate Jazakis obviously putting in another tremendous year, and Eli Morrissey, the running back, and there's a lot of offensive skill. However, Milton Academy has one of the best kickers in New England, if you will.
Yep.
Justin Yoon, I know you wrote a big thing about him earlier in the week. However, a field goal is 3 points, and a touchdown is worth 6, so I'm going to have to go with Governors. But I think it'll be a closer game than people think.
Yeah. Yeah, I was encouraged by seeing the way Milton Academy responded against Belmont Hill last week. Coach McDonald told us they had a tough week. That offensive line previously to that, and they played very well. So I think it will be competitive. But again, once again, that Govs machine just keeps on rolling, and I think they roll to victory and stay undefeated. We're going to move over to the Catholic Conference on Saturday. BC High and Xaverian. Again, I know we've all liked to kind of anoint Prep as the Catholic Conference champion, but one of these teams can win this game and make things very interesting down the stretch.
Yeah, I think we've all been waiting for one of these Catholic Conference teams outside St. John's Prep to come with that signature win.
Yep.
It didn't really come, but now's a great opportunity for BC High. I don't know what Luke Kateri's situation will be for the game.
Yep.
It'd be obviously nice to have him back. He's pretty much he's the one that can put them over the top if he's 100%. And Xaverian, we've been waiting. I know they've been playing well in losses, but I think BC High comes out here and makes a statement, and I think they make it interesting for next week.
I'm going to go with a pick'em line here to use some Las Vegas terminology, because I think this one really is going to be that close. Again, I like to stick with my picks. I know this is a long time ago, but I did pick BC High a long time ago to win the Catholic Conference. I think they get past this game. To make that date with Prep a little more interesting, I still think, again, ultimately in the long run, I think Prep has been too strong, but I think the Eagles come away with a big win and keep their hopes alive in the Catholic Conference. And again, Xaverian, find me a more talented, team that has won that many games. But I think BC High comes out with it. And we're going to wrap it up here. Come back here to Bridgewater-Raynham Friday night. Barnstable, Trojans, all the marbles on the line, ready to go. What do you got?
I'm going to go with the Red Raiders. I think last year was a surprise on a lot of people's minds, but I don't think it'll be a surprise this year if we see one of these guys taking off for a big score. Like I said, there's always something new added to this game. I think Chris Whidden, he's got these guys buying into his defensive system. Yep. I think they're going to shore things up. But I'm going to go on a limb here, say there's going to be some innovation on the offense here. We're going to see something we haven't seen before, and we've been watching Barnstable all year. So, I think they'll shore things up on defense, and I think it's going to be a tough test for BR, on the other side of the ball to take care of these guys offensively. You put these guys in single coverage, and they can pull some moves on you. So I just think the Red Raiders have just too many weapons to be handled here.
I think we talked about him before, Hayden Murphy. I think he's going to be the X factor in this one, and I think he could, depending on whether the Trojans look to go ball control, which is a possibility, obviously looking to conserve those defensive snaps and keep that unit fresh against that Barnstable offense. But I think the running backs will play a huge role here on both sides. Ryan Gallagher as well, obviously, is going to be a featured part of that BR offense, but also I think Hayden Murphy could be the difference here. But I'm going to go with Barnstable as well, returning as OCL champions, and I think that's going to do it for us here at Bridgewater-Raynham. It's getting pretty chilly out here, let me tell you, folks.
We're getting kicked out of here soon, aren't we?
They turned the lights out, last one. Take the keys with you. We'll see you later. But for now, I'm Scott Barboza. He's Brennan Hall. We'll see you next week on the ESPNBoston.com High Schools Preview.